Jason McClellan said, my wool kilt of 10 years I have, 10 years ago he bought this, I've never needed to do anything for the pleats. They have always been crisp and hardly ever wrinkled, and I've never taken an iron to it. However, my new wool kilt, it seems, needs an ironing every other time I put it on. It picks up wrinkles and creases like crazy, and some of the pleat edges like to stay rounded and not crisp, even with some ironing. Are there any tips or tricks to get those pleats to stay crisp? What's going on with his old kilt versus his new kilt would be my first question. Never mind the techniques, but...
Fair. The wool fiber, it varies from mill to mill. The cloth varies from mill to mill. Bring Mac in for this one as well. So Mac, what thoughts, questions? I'll let you go first on this. What thoughts, questions?
I think he needs to eat his spinach, build up some muscle, just push that iron down a little bit more harder.
Skittity-dum and skittity-doo, I got some spinach for all of you.
I gotta get those pleats going.
That's right. But yeah, I think a heavier iron, if you can get a heavier iron. I know most home irons are usually on the lighter side, or if he wants to even go get the old big
cast
iron one,
and,
use that. That even just dampening a little bit cloth. And using that as a press cloth then to help it out. But like you're saying, each mill iron's completely different.
Yep.
Some mills we get cloth and it gives up when it gets near the iron, and others we gotta lay into it over there.
Yeah.
We're pressing it in. So it's I'd be curious to know what mill.
Yeah. It's, if I had to guess, House of Edgar.
Yeah, would be my guess too.
Yeah. Different mills, as Mac was alluding, different mills have different pressures that you have to put into it. Loch Heron, how is Loch Heron's newer cloth? Their Scottish wool.
It's been fine.
It's been the same as their old cloth.
Yeah, I haven't really noticed too much with it. No, it's
okay.
I think it holds a little better edge than it used to, but it's still I would say the ones that iron the easiest are Martin Mills and Loch Heron still.
Yeah.
Both of them just take really well to the iron.
Okay. Yeah. We use a steam iron. We have a vacuum ironing table, so it actually sucks the steam down through the garment. And what Mac's talking about is the weight and the pressure. When you're steaming your kilt or ironing your kilt, you're actually putting pressure on it to crease the wool fabric. House of Edgar's 13-ounce wool. Generally speaking, you got to put a little bit more pressure on it in order for it to take a crease. It is a little bit more difficult where Loch Herons or Martin Mills, you wave an iron near it and it's like, I'm sorry. And it just creases automatically. And the other thing Mac kind of brought up was either dampening the cloth or using a press cloth. A press cloth meaning like get an old handkerchief or a piece of undyed cloth, get it wet, wring it out so it's not, it's just damp. It's not, sopping wet. Line up the pleat, lay it down, and then, put the iron directly on that. You do that so that way if the iron is too hot, you're not shining the wool fabric underneath the press cloth. Also, having that cloth wet will transfer some of the steam and some of the moisture into the kilt and allow it to kind of relax the fibers and, compress them down a little bit better. The other thing I would suggest potentially, it's a professional tool, but you can buy them essentially online, would be a tailor's clapper, which is a hardwood like a maple or something like that. It's a piece of wood that once you actually steam the kilt and you get the fabric laid flat and it's a little bit damp, you use this block of wood and you put pressure on the block of wood. And, using a harder wood, it'll kind of draw some of the moisture out of the kilt. That'd be one thing I'd suggest. Another would be making sure after you're pressing the kilt, you're letting it rest. What you don't want to do is if you have a kilt and you might want to press it when it's a little bit damp or iron it when it's a little bit damp. But what you don't want to do is move it too much when it's damp, because if you press a kilt, let's say like our vacuum ironing tables and a high pressure steam iron, you do all the pleats, it's great, and your kilt is hot and it's a little bit damp, and you pick it up and then you're moving it around and you hang it up and you hang it up to dry. You've now essentially gotten the steam and gotten the air and the hot air out of the kilt, and it's not had a chance to set. You want to just give it some time to rest in that position. So whether it's a clapper or whether it's something else, so you put a little bit of pressure on it while it's still damp, while it's still hot, and then let it cool in the creased position with pressure on it. It will keep a pleat better than it will if you're moving it around while it's still hot and while it's still damp. Mac.
Was that Jason who asked that question?
Yes.
Okay, so he did respond on here.
Oh, nice. He's here. Hi, Jason.
He said he's been hesitant about really to bear down on it to get it to behave. It is a 13 ounce from Loch Heron, which I'm actually kind of surprised. He doesn't remember what the old ones were.
Yeah. What I will say this is, okay, assuming you're in your home, all right, you don't have access to professional equipment. If you have an ironing table, when we first started the company, way, way, way back when, we had an ironing table and we tried to use the ironing table for pressing before we had vacuum ironing tables and that kind of stuff, just a standard at-home ironing table. We would, press into the cloth. Underneath the ironing table is actually like grid iron. It's actually, if you take the pad off, it's that grid so that it allows the steam to go through the table. The legs aren't as strong as I am, apparently. Because I remember, really bearing down on the kilts that we were pressing, and eventually the ironing table just kind of like collapsed. And then I was like, pulling it back up and then collapsing it again. And I broke an ironing table legs. And then we eventually said, okay, fine, let's put something, we're going to put this table, laid flat on top of an actual desk or something so I can really get up on it. And then we kind of took to a not plywood, but we got a sheet of melamine. So it was, a hard, kind of surface, and you could really, lay into it, but the steam doesn't have a chance to escape through it. So that's the biggest issue with something like that. But you want to get something that you can really lay into to kind of crease it. And then, again, allowing it to kind of, dry, stagnant on a table and static on a table, and let the pleats really set in. Anything else, Mac?
No, I was just thinking that exact scenario, of like pushing down on a home ironing board, just that thing going straight to the floor.
Yeah, the problem is home ironing equipment. It's meant to iron stuff like shirts, which are like 6 ounce, 5 ounce, thin cotton material and 1 or 2 layers of fabric, not 8 ounces of 13 ounce wool. So they're meant for light duty, not professional duty. And kilts, you kind of need professional duty, or you need to just, get up on it and lean into it. You don't have to do a handstand on the iron, but you do want to kind of put a lot more of your body pressure and your body weight on top of the iron. So a press cloth is a great idea. Again, an old handkerchief that's, either white or undyed cotton. Again,
Bed sheet.
A bed sheet. Yep, that's fine as well. But the trick with press cloth is you don't want to have a full bed sheet where it covers the entire thing,
right,
because you're working with little areas at a time. Okay. So you want to do like 2 pleats, 3 pleats at a time at most, because you want to be very, very, very precise with where you're going.
Gotcha.
So that would be my thoughts and tips on it as well. Hope that helps. People are always looking for hints, tips, tricks to iron their kilt or care for their garments. If you have any particular tricks that we didn't mention on the show, leave those down in the comments for the rest of the people here. If you like these videos, please remember, subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you get notified every time we come out with a new video.